there is something fundamentally abhorrent about a system that intentionally denies or devises methods at keeping people from finding a job. Whenever schemes are employed to deny the basics of life, the opportunity to work, the opportunity to take care of your family, the opportunity to take care of yourself, there is something wrong with a system that allows for a disruption in that process. And there is an intentional effort, in my judgment, to sustain and to create a permanent underclass in our society. Now, whether you buy into the theory, the Marxist theory of conflict, or perhaps you espouse the virtues of capitalism, whatever you espouse, there is absolutely no denying there is a system in place, number one, to create and sustain a permanent underclass, and number two, a system in place that will maintain the wealth divide in our country. Whatever divisions that exist in our society, there is a system in place that will help to maintain that status quo. So today on the Ron Holland Show, the new tool in the employment discrimination practices, how employers are shrewdly denying job applicants, and how a multi-billion-dollar industry is cashing in on the hardships of job seekers. This is happening today, folks. What we are seeing, what we are experiencing as consumers, as job applicants, as potential employees, we are in a situation where employers, now you know I've often said, and I've said in the past and I will maintain today, that the revolution that is taking place, that is largely being led by the Tea Party, is the wrong revolution, because it is a revolution against our government. And I will continue to maintain that the revolution that ought to take place in this country, yes, we have gripes against our government. Yes, government can be bloated. Yes, there could be or can be or perhaps is government overreach. But the revolution that needs to take place today, folks, against employers who systematically employ efforts at keeping people from work, that exploit workers, that's where our revolution, it is against the industries that continue to divide our country, divide our labor, exploit our labor, I should say, and divide our people. And I'm talking black, white, Puerto Rican, Mexican, whomever. No, I don't embrace the idea that we should launch a class warfare. But class warfare is taking place in American society. And it is being exploited by individuals largely on the right wing of the political spectrum. And I will maintain that those who represent the lobbyists in Washington, D.C., those who represent big corporation and big business, those are the individuals who are the gatekeepers of the wealth in this society. And those are the individuals that continue to maintain the wealth divide, that continue to maintain class divisions in this country. You talk about redistribution of wealth. Well, how about redistributing the wealth to those individuals who undergird this society? The workers, the middle class, the poor. Those are the individuals that are being short-shrifted, not only by big corporations, but by a credit card industry, by a private industry that exploits its workers. That is what's going on in these United States of America. And I will maintain, and I will continue to maintain, that the revolution that need to be launched, that ought ought to be launched, that should be launched, is by those of us who are breaking our backs to try to live. That is what's going on in our country. The American worker is being exploited. The American worker who continues to do absolutely everything that is required, we are being short-shrifted. And at some point, that revolution that need to be launched, it is going to be launched and directed at the right individuals. Yes, we ought to be concerned about government overreach, but we also need to be concerned about what private industry is doing. We'll be back in a minute. Instances from using credit history to deny job applications or to deny employment. And I thought it was fascinating. I'm going to do something that I don't usually do because radio is theater of the mind. And so it literally is frowned upon when folks, particularly hosts, are using or reading entire swaths of information. But I'm going to do that today primarily to put into context what is actually happening so that you can get a feel for the urgency that exists here. This was an article written by Representative Luis Gutierrez, and it was actually in the Huffington Post, and I'm going to read it in its entirety. I know, again, radio is theater of the mind, but we have to sort of put things in context, and I just caution you that whenever we have these kinds of situations, this is really an opportunity for you to hear what is going on and get a fuller context. Almost every day, I hear from constituents who are struggling to find work, keep a roof over their heads, or pay their medical bills. These daily struggles are commonplace across the country. Now there's another phenomenon that adds insult to injury. In the midst of an economic crisis, employers are increasingly using credit reports to deny jobs to applicants. In this economy, using someone's financial struggles to deny them a job isn't just unfair to individual job seekers. It hurts the economy and our ability to recover. And he's absolutely right. We are in a strange place, strange economic place in our society today. And people are struggling. And so when people are doing precisely what they're told to do, go out and seek a job. Now, what is happening? Folks are being laid off, companies are closing, and individuals are literally struggling. And they are doing what they're required to do. They're putting their suits on, and they're making the cold calls, and they are going on the job interviews, filling out the applications, sending in the resumes. They're doing their part. And because they're doing what they're required to do, we as a society are supposed to smile. We're supposed to approve of those kinds of activities. And yet, they are not being rewarded. And as Representative Gutierrez suggests, this phenomena of employers denying job applicants based on credit history is a real problem for the American people. On August 10th, the Chicago Tribune argued in an editorial against a new Illinois law preventing companies from using credit reports in hiring by stating that, quote, experts say there is evidence that workplace theft and fraud correlates with the financial distress indicated by bad credit, end quote, and that there is no downside to using credit reports to determine whom to hire. I couldn't disagree more. I'm willing to bet that Bernie Madoff had a sterling credit report right before he was arrested for perpetrating one of the largest financial frauds in American history. And he's right. We all know that Bernie Madoff has demonstrated that fraud and dishonesty isn't the exclusive domain of individuals whose credit has been sullied. There has been a plethora of individuals in private industry, Wall Street, government, who demonstrated a penchant for their dishonesty and their fraudulent behavior. We've seen it. And yet they are not subject to the same exploitive kinds of situation. And it is amazing to me. This is, when we talk about discrimination, that is the form of discrimination to me that is most abhorrent. When individuals who have the appearance, who are well off, have a certain amount of wealth, but engage in practices that are totally antithetical to what we call good character. And character is something that is used by employers to, again, suggest whom to hire. And it's just an amazing thing. Gutierrez goes on to say, I am proud to be the lead co-sponsor of the Equal Employment for All Act, H.R. 3149, introduced by Congressman Steve Cohen, which will ensure that unfair credit checks not hurt job seekers and the economy by keeping qualified people out of work. A recent survey by the Society for Human Resource Management found 60% of employers are using credit reports on at least some applicants, up from just 35% in 2003. Employers justify using them because they supposedly measure one's character. But here's the fundamental problem, says Gutierrez. For a majority of people, poor credit doesn't stem from irresponsibility or bad decisions, but rather from life circumstances and bad luck. I want to read that again, because he's absolutely right. For a majority of people, poor credit doesn't stem from irresponsibility or bad decisions, but rather from life circumstances and bad luck. I'm going to hang my hat there for a moment, because that is a reality. Individuals who are doing their part, showing up to work on time, working the overtime, doing what they're required to do. Job shuts down. Bills are not being paid. Unemployment obviously is not paying enough. Resumes are being sent out. Applications are being filled. Interviews are being done. And jobs are being turned down. And in many instances, people don't know why. They don't, in many instances, have the wherewithal to determine, why did I not get that job? Yeah, they'll receive a little thank you notice, thanking them for coming to the interview and filling out the application. But the sinister part of all of this is not knowing precisely why the job offer has been turned down. And now we sort of get a picture of what is going on in our society when individuals are asked to do the right thing, and suddenly they find themselves in a situation where they are being denied an opportunity to work. Why? Because of a small little piece of paper that suggests, or at least in a subjective view, suggests something's wrong with the individual's character. I want to tell you something. It is a bad situation when we have arrived at a place where someone's character can be besmirched, all because of a report. We'll be back in a moment.
News of the Carolina School of Broadcasting.